Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Big Headlines is proudly supported by Canadian Blood Services. Friendship on display in Japan as the Prime Minister kicks off a visit to Tokyo, while tense trade talks start with the United States, with officials meeting for the first time in months. Hi, I'm Virjesh Dave. This is Big Headlines, everything you need to know to be in the know in just 5 minutes. The Prime Minister has arrived in Japan, the last stop on a 10-day international trade mission, but other Canadian officials are heading south of the border for the first talks with the U.S. since last year. Mark Carney is highlighting trade, security, and critical minerals as areas of growing partnership between Canada and Japan. Carney also continues to push the theme of a changing world order from his speech at the World Economic Forum.
I believe we both know the importance of economic security for the security of our peoples, because the world is at a turning point. We see the manifestations in the Middle East, we see it elsewhere.
The Prime Minister is set to meet with business leaders and sign new deals before heading back to Ottawa. Meanwhile, Federal Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is in Washington today for talks on the Canada-US-Mexico agreement, which is up for negotiation this year. These are the first talks between Canadian and U.S. officials since President Trump called off negotiations back in October. LeBlanc and his U.S. counterpart are also set to discuss tariffs on key Canadian sectors. American officials are warning strikes on Iran are about to surge dramatically as Operation Epic Fury hits the 1-week mark. Israel says the fighting has already severely affected Iran's ability to defend its airspace and launch missiles, but the Islamic Republic continues to launch strikes across the Middle East under the cover of darkness inside Iran this morning.
U.S. B-2 bombers dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs targeting deeply buried ballistic missile launchers.
Head of U.S. Central Command Admiral Brad Cooper also says they hit a massive Iranian drone carrier at sea. 7 days into the U.S.-Israel war, intense airstrikes are slamming into the capitals of Iran and Lebanon. Experts accuse Iran of trying to run out the clock for the U.S., unrealistic, according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
We've got no shortage of munitions. Our stockpiles of defensive and offensive weapons allow us to sustain this campaign as long as we need to.
Canadian and allied militaries are meeting to discuss how to help now for anyone trying to get out of the Middle East, including some 2,000 Canadians. More flights are being added, but prices are almost at a whopping $10,000. Also making big headlines, U.S. President Donald Trump has made a change in his cabinet. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is now on her way out, and Trump is tapping Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin to replace her. ABC's senior political correspondent Rachel Scott says the president announced in a social media post that Noem will now take on a new job.
I haven't talked to a single Republican here on Capitol Hill who had heard the name of this one. He says that she'll now be serving as the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas for a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. But the bottom line here, she is not going to be the Homeland Security Secretary.
Sources say Trump decided to fire Noem after her testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee this week. During the hearing, Noem says the president signed off on a $220 million ad campaign for the Department of Homeland Security that featured the secretary, but senior administration officials say Trump never approved it. One year after Canada's oldest company filed for creditor protection, most of the Hudson's Bay and Saks stores are sitting dark and empty. An analysis from the Canadian Press has found 73 of 96 properties the department stores once used haven't been reopened yet. The executive vice president at Aurora Retail Group says landlords can't be blamed for the vacancies because most tenants don't want as much space as HBC or Saks had.
It's going to be a tough leasing assignment to fill, anywhere from 150 to 300,000, maybe 700,000 square feet of vacancy. Like that's a lot of space.
The Canadian Press counted about 73 former HBC or Saks stores are still empty. The remaining 23 have been taken over by retailers including Urban Behavior, Urban Planet, and Designer Depot. The Paralympic Winter Games in Milano Cortina will officially open later today. It'll celebrate its 50th anniversary, despite some countries planning to boycott the opening ceremony because of the return of the Russian flag and national anthem to the global sports stage. Ukraine, Czechia, Estonia, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland are among the countries boycotting. Iran also has one athlete participating in the games as the conflict in the Middle East continues. The opening ceremony takes place at the Arena di Verona, marking the first time a Paralympic ceremony is held at a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This year marks the biggest Winter Paralympics ever, with more than 600 athletes and a record female participation. The games run until March 15th. If you haven't listened yet, today on the Big Story podcast, permanent daylight saving time might not be the answer. Here's why. Host Maria Costain speaks to author and expert in daylight saving time, David Prero.
Even in Florida, 8 kids died, I believe, as a result of car accidents just after the first few weeks of the permanent time change being implemented.
Yes, that's true. Those things will happen, and when people hear about them, then they get more worried. So the other thing is, of course, if you changed your system and no one else changes, like BC is doing,
Right.
very inconvenient as well, independent of the darkness and the lightness, because everybody else, or most everybody in the U.S. and Canada, are changing on the same days, and you're not. So now it's bad for transportation, all buses, planes, trains that used to leave one city at 8 o'clock and arrive at 9 o'clock. Now it arrives at 10 o'clock. Well, that may be that you miss a connection.
You can listen to the full episode wherever you get your podcasts. Now you're in the know. Thanks for listening. Big Headlines is proudly supported by Canadian Blood Services. Experience what you get when you give. You can make an appointment by visiting blood.ca, the Give Blood app, or call 1-800-2DONATE to book a donation appointment. Make sure you follow, share, and review Big Headlines. Enrique Amaturo is our lead producer. I'm Burjesh Dave. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.